Welcome back to episode 5 of the Cybersecurity webinar series, where today we will be discussing the use of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity and how AI may disrupt cyberspace. Welcome back, David.
Hi.
Today with us is guest speaker, Professor Matthew Montebello, Head of Department of Artificial Intelligence at the Faculty of ICT at the University of Malta.
Hello.
Professor, would you like to give us a bit of background of yourself and the intersection of AI and cybersecurity in your academic work?
Right, definitely. So right off, I can say that my background is in education. I used to teach in government schools and secondary schools, as well in UK and in the States. And then I switched to computer science in the mid-90s and eventually to artificial intelligence at the end of the 1990s. This focus obviously got me to the University of Malta, where I've been teaching for these last 25 years. And apart from that, I switched completely to the application of AI to education. Within it, for sure, and this is a very important point, we apply, obviously, cybersecurity to the area of AI in education. So in no way I have the expertise completely in cybersecurity, but in the application of AI in cybersecurity, obviously, when it comes to safeguarding digital learning environments, for example, or protecting educational data, or model like secure digital behaviors for students. So in that case, privacy and data protection are very much at heart within my research.
So in the everlasting, evolving landscape of digital security, AI has emerged as a formidable force, reshaping the way we defend against cyber threats. It's not just a technological leap, it's a revolution that introduces both unprecedented opportunities and potential disruptions. As we dive into today's discussion, we'll unravel the intricate ways in which artificial intelligence is transforming the traditional cyber security paradigm, from enhancing threat detection to automating response mechanisms. AI is a key player in our arsenal against cyber threats, but with great power comes great responsibility, and understanding the implications of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity is very crucial. Today, we'll navigate through the applications, benefits, and potential challenges that AI introduces to the cybersecurity landscape. David, how is AI reshaping the cybersecurity landscape?
It's a very good question. We already touched on this in our previous episode where we spoke about generative AI helping attackers craft very good phishing emails. But let's take a couple of steps back, because AI has been around way longer than ChatGPT hit the public consciousness, and at least from a defender's point of view, so like what we do in CyberSift, AI is one of the best tools we have to sift through enormous amounts of data. So to put it into perspective, one laptop might generate thousands of events per minute that are logged and then sent onwards. The question is, how will a human being ever be capable of sifting, hence the name CyberSift, sifting through all those logs? And that is one of the applications that, let's say, traditional AI, not ChatGPT, has. What are the outliers in your data? What doesn't quite fit in? Now, the magic sauce is determining what doesn't actually fit in. Do you base it on numbers, on language, on a sequence of events? That's a primary secret sauce of the company, or algorithm, whatever you want to call it. Then, like you said, ChatGPT came along and this hit public consciousness. And at least in my view, its biggest, let's say, disruption is it lowered the bar for everyone, both for defenders and for attackers. If you're looking at it an attacker point of view, you have people whose primary language is not English writing flawless phishing emails. You have script kiddies, people with no formal education, who now are churning out industry gold standard pieces of malware, which are very advanced, that kind of stuff. But on the defender's point of view, ChatGPT also has some benefits. For example, a fresh junior analyst now all of a sudden can write complicated regex and complicated programs, complicated scripts, can understand more complicated concepts just by asking ChatGPT. So it is a two-edged sword now, but used correctly, I think there will be a net positive effect going forward.
So AI is truly reshaping the cybersecurity landscape. It has its advantages and its disadvantages.
Absolutely.
In terms of defense, but it can also be creating the problem in itself.
That's right.
So, Professor Montebello, to gain deeper insights into the academic perspective of this fascinating intersection of technology and security, how can you give us a bit of extensive academic expertise in the way you envision the collaboration between artificial intelligence and cybersecurity evolving from your experience, from your knowledge?
Right. So what David was talking about is, bang on, and actually he hit the top of the issue right away, going into generative AI. I was going to beat about the bush a bit more before going there. But yes, obviously, generative AI is a disruptive force in the positive and in the negative. I look at it at the positive way. I refuse to mention just ChatGPT because we use loads of large language models, Perplexity, for example, Bard in Germany, and others. So we're even developing our own for the Maltese language, for example. But yes, ChatGPT was the most advertised one, let's say that, and most popular. But before all that, as David was saying, in the 50s and the 60s, people like Alan Turing were already using pattern recognition and anomaly detection to detect characters within war messages, literally. So since then, this pattern matching and pattern recognition is what characterizes AI. Obviously, that sifting, and now I get the idea where he got the sifting word. I was wondering where it was, is necessary because data is massive. So big data comes through. If it is educational data, because every click a student clicks is an instance, so imagine the number of clicks. So we need a tool. Yes, you mentioned the tool, David, as well. We need a tool to assist us. That's why we use tools. Obviously, we're moving ahead now, AI and cybersecurity, from the basic pattern recognition and anomaly detection. AI can simulate attacks. Again, David mentioned that, but it also can be even more dynamic, like customized defenses created on the fly for sophisticated cyber attacks, for example, or even anticipate threats, figuring out that there is an anomaly happening, and all of a sudden it's generating and creating adaptive security protocols to defend itself. So AI can also create realistic scenarios, for example. So yes, AI is a collaborative companion, a partner, literally, a partner to assist us, as it always does, in our decision support system, sort of.
Thank you. Now, let's turn our attention to the cutting-edge intersection of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, specifically the emergence of generative AI. Generative AI is poised to be a game changer in cyberspace, introducing novel capabilities and complexities. Professor Montebello, from your vantage point in academia, could you share with us the current research trends, academic insights, and any groundbreaking developments in the realm of AI and cybersecurity? How is the academic community navigating the evolving landscape? And are there key areas of focus that stand out?
So already mentioned the realistic scenarios. David mentioned that you had discussed the hyper realistic phishing attacks that it can create. It could easily create, zero-day exploits, for example, all of a sudden. So that's sort of the negative side, or that side of the sword. But on the other hand, it can generate new defenses, and stress test systems, for example, automatically. So it's generating these simulated environments, sophisticated simulated environments, for example, to train security personnel, in a safe sort of sandbox. But the trick behind it is always that, the environment, even from an academic point of view, is becoming always more volatile. We require adaptability because it's changing so fast. And I'm going to say every morning, but every week I'm checking out what new generative AI is doing, or what generative AI tools are around, because I have to be at a higher power than my own students at this point. Because students, obviously, they're not young, and they know exactly how they can use these tools to their advantage. So I have to be a step ahead of them, apart from offering research avenues for them to, check out when they're doing, for example, their final year products. So we're talking about AI-powered defenses, to match the massive, incredible, powerful ingenuity of AI-powered attacks. Literally, I can call them AI-powered attacks. So as far as the tool goes that is going to attack, we need to obviously counteract with our own ways.
Thank you, Professor Montebello. Now, David, with your wealth of industry experience, we're eager to hear about the practical side of things. Can you provide examples or scenarios where generative AI might evolve and impact cybersecurity practices? Additionally, what potential challenges does this technology pose, and how can organizations prepare for them?
Let's start with the challenges, because they pretty much feed into how far you can use these tools in real world scenarios. So one of the first challenges is something very similar to what Prof. Montebello was already touched on. There's lots of LLMs, large language models out there. The primary one that most people think about is ChatGPT, and like it, Mistral, etc., etc. All of these have, at least in our industry, one big problem. They're not hosted on your site. They're not even hosted in your country, and God knows where you are sending your questions, and along with your questions, your data. So I doubt any bank would allow me to ask ChatGPT, given this list of transactions from ATMs, which looks out of place, because I am very intentionally leaking their data to a US company. So over there, we fall afoul of a million and one different regulations. So that's the very first um, challenge that is there. And my personal pet research rabbit hole is local LLMs, which is these large language models that can be deployed on site, even on your laptop. There are some fantastic TikTok and Twitter videos out there of someone using these generative AIs to code on a plane, so no internet connection. That and then starts changing the game for you, because you can bring these large brains from data centers hosted God nowhere to your infrastructure where the data is safe. So the challenge right now is actually making that work. There's lots of good progress. We're not quite, in my opinion, at the level of ChatGPT, but we're getting there. So that's challenge number one, the data. Challenge number two, as probably most of the public, most of the listeners already know, probably already have experienced, is what in the industry they call hallucinations. So it just gets it wrong. Who is David Vassallo? David Vassallo doesn't know anything. Hopefully it's hallucinating. But the same kind of thing happens with real data. You might ask, give me the anomaly within this data, and it would get it completely wrong. So the challenge is, how do you figure it out? How do you pass this along to probably humans down the pipeline so that they can flag this as being wrong? Now, in more classical AI terms, this hallucination, it has always been there, this problem, and we normally call it false negative or false positive, which means that something really is abnormal, but either it doesn't get flagged, false negative, or something isn't abnormal and it gets flagged, false positive. And this has been something that we've been grappling with for a very long time. AI tends to give us a lot of false positives. So, for example, part of our SOC team, one of their major jobs every day is going through these alerts to figure out which ones are false positives. You know, like what is anomalous is not necessarily malicious. And one of the examples I like to get is an AI model will flag a spike of traffic to your website. Does that mean you're under a denial of service? No, maybe I had a very good social media campaign and all of a sudden everyone is clicking on the buy one, get one free button. False positive, you know? So there's a lot of these kind of challenges in interpreting the results as well from these AI models. I think those, if I had to pick the top two challenges, those would be the top two challenges. Having said that, the benefit is it will flag things that humans probably either would have missed or not even have thought of flagging. And then once you start digging into it, you're like, actually, it's right, you know, and this is a policy violation, or this is an anomaly like a successful marketing campaign, or really, this is malicious. So again, there are pluses and minuses. Overall pluses, but there are challenges, especially with generative AI, which is new to the scene.
Following these perspectives from both academia and industry, it's clear that the future of cybersecurity is intricately tied to the advancements in generative AI. Professor Montebello, any reflections on the practical implications of these developments from an academic standpoint?
Yes, what David sees as challenges, I see as opportunities. Maybe it's true. It's better than missing out. It's giving you false positives. I know, but at least it's getting them. You know. Having said that, I don't really. I'm not in the cybersecurity domain, so I don't see it as a problem, to be honest. For sure, the application of AI to detect, because it's looking at, you mentioned the first challenge is the data. So the challenge is the big data. I already mentioned big data, and parsing through it. You say sifting. I say parsing through it is not humanly possible. As simple as that. The fact that we have generative AI that can do the work that it will take me 30 years and it can do it in half an hour, that's incredible. So it's a tool and I will use it. But the fact that it can detect even subtle patterns, really subtle, that to us they're nothing, but the machine is always there, consistently checking day and night, 24/7, and it can detect a network intrusion with a minor change. That is amazing, incredible. And the fact that it can also adapt to new threats automatically because it's learning from the past. Yes, David mentions hallucinations, but it's getting better, David. It's getting better, I can tell you, from when it happened in 2022. Okay, at the end of 2022, we started working with generative AI. Students started doing projects. Since then, it got way and way better. And maybe that was the reason why some people left ChatGPT, for example. In academia, we switched much more to one called Perplexity because it actually gives you the references and the documents, which is what our bread and butter basically. So I can refer back to it. So yes, it does fail on those lines, but obviously the technology itself, and this is where we use the term machine learning, the machine is learning from itself to get better.
Thank you both for providing valuable insights into the dynamic fusion of generative AI and cybersecurity. It's clear that this collaboration is shaping the future of our digital defensive. Now, let's zoom in on practical applications. David, at CyberSift, you're at the forefront of implementing AI in cybersecurity. Could you share some real-world examples and scenarios where generative AI is making an impact?
Definitely, I think the biggest impact that we're having is when it comes to writing. So it's a very interesting mix between old school and new school. And old school used to be everyone manually writing these rules to figure out pattern recognition, so like regexes, whatever it is. And one of the best ways that we have is that now you can upload a file to generative AI and ask it to write these signatures itself. That, from a manpower point of view, is amazing, because uh, I don't want to get into people losing their jobs, but you're making those people, one man, feel like 100, and a lot more, let's say, skilled, because they don't get tired. So that's number one. Number two, Professor Montebello mentioned perplexity, and uh, that is touching on a whole not subsystem, but subcategory of generative AI called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Systems. And the Retrieval Augmented System is, I ask you a question, this AI model will go and figure out, get sources, maybe run a Google search, maybe run a Wikipedia search, maybe ask a local database. So now I'm touching back to what I was saying before, in order to get the raw data to answer your question. Right now, if I have to say, we're trying to focus on that. How are we going to feed local data that is pertinent to your organization? Because, like we've been mentioning hundreds of times in this um, webinar series, what is an anomaly for you, bank, is not an anomaly for you, a gaming company. So this whole RAG thing now is going to be a game changer, in my opinion. And the examples are very similar to what we were mentioning before. Now we have the capability of asking, what is strange within these transactions in my context, in my environment. My gaming site maybe will visit torrent sites, but a bank won't. So this is going to be a big game changer for us. Practical examples are, it enhances what we call EBA, behavior, end user behavior analytics. You can feed these analytics, like Professor Montebello said, into an AI, and it will catch, like, listen, David is doing something weird today compared to his previous data. Um, but there is a lot of focus on generative AI, but there's also some very interesting research in using generative AI to feed what I would call classical methods. I told you before that the secret sauce of the company is trying to figure out how to represent data in such a way that you are easily able to pick out the anomalies. But it's AI all the way down now. You can ask AI to come up with those features so that you pick up an anomaly after it's been fed to another AI model. That is very interesting, and I don't see a lot of research there, at least for cybersecurity, yet. So if I had to bet, that will start to grow in practical terms. Um, and obviously this local LLM thing, that you bring a walled model into your own infrastructure, um, will explode once it's easy to set up, which it already is, to be fair. We just need more polishing around it.
Now let's talk a bit about the ethical concerns, the ethical dimensions of this evolving landscape. Professor Montebello, as academia delves deeper into the integration of AI in cybersecurity, what are the key ethical concerns that researchers and scholars are actively addressing? We understand that ethical considerations play a pivotal role in the responsible development and deployment of AI technologies. Could you provide insights into how the academic community is navigating these concerns, especially in the context of cybersecurity?
So it's a multifaceted thing, this ethics. But we take ethics very, very, very seriously. Apart from teaching ethics and AI at our department and our faculty, every project, not just AI project, has to go through the ethics committee within the faculty and university ethics committee. Specifically to AI, obviously there is the two issues. One of them is fairness, and the other one is bias. And these two concepts, sometimes it's the data itself that is creating a bias, and it's not the machine learning or the AI itself. So I don't know if you watched a movie at the moment. It's on Netflix called Coded Bias. This is a good movie to watch, to see how bias is permeating everything, including AI. Um, I stopped watching it halfway through because I got so angry because they're saying the AI is biased. And I'm saying, no, 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 not the AI is biased. It's what I'm feeding it, the training software I'm giving it. If if these guys in Silicon Valley are training their face recognition using white males, typical programmers in the States, and then a colored female in UK tries to use the same software, all of a sudden, the system is not going to work. Same thing, this bias can be happening with police using face recognition at the airports, for job recruitment, to take a loan, and so on and so forth. And you can see this unfairness going through because the data that was being used to teach or to train the machine learning was biased. So this is a very, very important point. So we insist on transparency, on transparency in our algorithms, transparency in the data, in the heterogeneous data to be used for the training, and even mixing it up to ensure that there is no bias happening over there. Um, the other issue definitely is privacy. For example, in my case, we, we, we can't and we do not want to perform research within classrooms, for example, to protect the students themselves, not just from an image point of view, but also from a private point of view. So actually, the AI law that was enacted last January by the EU, specifically states that AI systems cannot be used within classrooms with young children unless obviously adults at university give you permission to do so. So all these issues from an ethics point of view um, are ingrained within our software preparation, our software development process, because they will give a bad name to AI. Okay, we know that AI is fallible. It's not a perfect thing, but yet, when it's applied in a wrong way or trained in a wrong way, you know, data input, data output, or rubbish in, rubbish out, literally, this will cause problems, and a problem to the domain itself and to our profession as AI specialists.
So it's all about this balancing act between the interpretation of data, the use of artificial intelligence to our benefit, and the threats that could come through these same uses of the data and artificial intelligence. I think in future, obviously, we need to be more mindful about what could be of a threat to organizations, and because here we're mainly addressing business, and to how AI can be used in organizations to make sure that as much as possible they take full advantage of AI, but at the same time they know where the threats lie, and this is where CyberSift can be of assistance. We come to the final part of our webinar. Professor Montebello, I'd like to thank you for your participation. Would you perhaps like to share some final thoughts?
So, as I said, AI is fallible. Okay, it's not a cybersecurity silver bullet for sure. It is there to assist us, and as long as it is applied to any domain, not just to cybersecurity, on a human-centered policy, I think we're fine. We're using it to assist humans rather than create this anomaly like unfairness and bias that obviously create massive ethical considerations. So the idea is to have safety, yes, cybersecurity, and companies like yours, which are very important to give us access to real data, for example, and real cases. But at the same time, we need to trust it. One way we do this, we use technology at academic level called explainable AI, for example, and these kind of systems give you a justification why the software or why the AI acted in such a way. So we need to trust the technology through explainable AI example to be able to um, keep your life more secure. So it's this again balance of safety and trust, but it has to be ingrained within the software as well.
I actually would like to ask in one of a couple of maybe interrelated issues that keep on cropping up are we as a company use humans as at the tail end of our pipeline after AI comes to figure out if the AI is making any mistakes. But generative AI especially has brought to the fore, I get this question a lot, what use are humans now? Even from developers, young people coming out of university, some of them are really discouraged in entering software development, cybersecurity, because they just think that their job in 3, 5 years' time is going out the window because it's going to be done by this artificial brain. Do, do you get any of these fears directly from the students, Professor Montebello, or is
Yes.
it just
No, not actually, not from the students, but from the general public and from the talks we do around Malta. We train teachers, go to ministries talking about generative AI because obviously it took off quite widely. But yes, we get these questions, and my typical answer is if we're going to lose 8 jobs, we're gaining 10, just to put it into perspective. And when I tell my students at first year, I'm training you for jobs that in 3 years' time, when you graduate, I don't know what's going to be. Now it's a real. It's not going to happen because our third years, for example, who will be graduating in June, they're doing their projects at the moment, had no idea 3 years ago about LLMs and generative AI, and they had no idea that there is a job out there waiting for them called prompt engineering, for example, on how to prompt this generative AI. And as they went through these 3 years, not even 4, 3 years, other jobs got created. Yes, some jobs are going to be lost, especially those not requiring much um, mental and cognitive skills, but other jobs will be created. Obviously, data scientists, data engineers, they've been there for these last 5 years, but now specifically on generative AI and how to put things together using generative AI, because that's the trick. It's not just generating something and then just copying and pasting. No, the skill is what to ask and how to apply it or integrate it with other generative AIs, because every generative AI has a different algorithm at the back. Just as you guys have a different algorithm of doing the sifting, obviously the generative different AIs asking the same question, even to the same generative AI system, it will give you a different answer. So the skill is putting them together and giving them that human-centered touch. This is where the skill really comes. So I know I need to teach students on how to use the tool. Yeah, why not? Obviously, important thing I need to say is that we encourage, we embrace the use of generative AI, both as AI specialists and as educators, because it is a tool that we need to use.
yeah, agreed.
Thank you, Professor Montebello, for your valuable contribution. Yours, as is ours, is a very interesting, challenging, changing world to live in.
Definitely.
I'm sure your students enjoy all these interactions with you as much as we did. I thank you once again. During our next episode, we shall be discussing EU grant schemes. Obviously, there is a cost to having the right cybersecurity. There are services that are available through CyberSift that can protect the threats of cybersecurity. And in the next episode, we will seek to help and delve into valuable insights on EU grant schemes available for businesses seeking to enhance the cybersecurity infrastructure, which today has become something that needs to be done in business. Our guest speaker will be someone from Servizi Europei of Malta. So I would like to thank the audience for listening to all our webinars, or at least if this is the first time, I would encourage you to visit the other webinars. But I think one of this next episode is one that we should not be missing, because it's important to tap into these grant schemes once they are so available and easy to get. Thank you all. Thank you, Professor Montebello. Thank you, David.
My pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Very much.